Especially with Wayne County Speed Shop and Mopar as our sponsor.
Scott Jeffrey on the Dodge standard bearer is justifiably excited about off-season progress.
For Mopar and the guys from Wayne County, I'll tell you, they've been working so hard over this winter, and we've been putting some good mile an hour up on the scoreboard this weekend. We're enjoying it, I'll tell you.
But wait, what about the Johnsons and their legendary horsepower? Son Kurt is confident.
Oh, they're going to have a problem with the Oldsmobiles, I believe.
1992 and 93, Winston champion Warren Johnson is a realist. Or is he?
Got to do whatever you have to do to win these things.
What about Darrell Alderman?
Who?
Darrell Alderman. At the first race of the season, it was as scripted. Dodge and Oldsmobile, Darrell and Warren taking the win. But wait, 2 weeks ago in Phoenix, Alderman does Kurt in the semis and heads for a second final.
Would you like a little revenge on Warren Johnson for 2 weeks ago?
I tell you what I'd like. I'd like for Scott Jeffrey on to win this next round and it did an all-Mopar final.
Can wishes come true? Not according to Warren.
I never heard of a dreaded Dodge. It's dreaded Oldsmobiles.
You're going to handle him?
Problem.
Not so fast.
There's one of these deals. This particular track seems to be favoring the bow-tie Chryslers over there. We lost, but there's a whole bunch more races left.
Talk about wishes coming true, an all-Dodge final. Scott won it, and in doing so launched another salvo in the Pro Stock war. Today, it's the third stop of the 18-event, $19 million Winston Championship Tour. Welcome, everyone, to coverage of the professional classes from the 7th Annual Slick 50 Nationals presented by Western Auto from Houston Raceway Park near Houston, Texas. It is an absolutely incredible race day here at Houston Raceway Park, and the weather has allowed tens of thousands of fans to jam the pit area. Boy, are they having a good time. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and I'll tell you, we did not get the performance in Pro Stock we anticipated. No 6-second elapsed time, but we did get the quickest field in the history of the sport with a bump spot of 7.154 seconds. In Top Fuel, we have a new national record working for elapsed time, and there's been lots of entertainment in Funny Car as well. For more on the story in Pro Stock, here's my good pal, Steve Evans.
Dave, the days of the fans really whooping it up for Pro Stock are back. Only it's not Fords and Chevys they're cheering for now. It's Dodges and Oldsmobiles. And here in Houston, we saw a repeat of Phoenix in qualifying with the Dodges on top. Jeffrey on number 1, followed by Alderman. The Johnson family in the 3rd and 4th spot, Warren and his son Kurt, respectively. They also, as you can see, occupy the top 4 spots in the Winston points list. Now, here's the deal. In a few minutes, they run round number 2. If they all 4 survive it, they meet head-to-head Dodge versus Oldsmobile in the semifinals. Earlier today, right after round 1, I talked to all 4 players in this drama.
Here, we're running right with them. In fact, I had low ET first round here, so we're looking real good. We had the top speed of the first round, so I think both cars are operating probably on an equal playing field here. They've got a lot more power than they had last year, and it's just up to us to work on some of that for ourselves.
Nothing personal.
No.
Well, there's 2 operations out there that are making a little bit more power than the other cars, and it's 2 Jeeps and 2 excellent Oldsmobiles. Everybody know what X stands for. Yeah. But now we're lucky enough to have our chassis combination figured out, able to apply the power to the racetrack, so we're just a little bit ahead of everybody else.
Coming back after 2 years, was there any driver you wanted to beat more than Warren Johnson?
Well, I really wanted to prove that, you know, we could still run with Warren. Yeah, I'd have to say Warren Johnson was one I'd like to beat, but I like to beat anybody that's in the other lane.
We're just out there racing the racetrack. We're not racing the Johnsons.
You worked for one at one time.
I sure did, but that was a long time ago, and I've forgotten about it.
Dave, I'm going to play PA announcer of old. How many of you want the Oldsmobiles to win? Yeah! How many for Dodge? Yeah! Here's Bob Fry with a story on the Nitro classes.
Steve, I guess from the results of your informal poll, we ought to rename Houston Dodge City. Well, let me tell you, the big news in the fuel pit area is this car right here, and the driver, Scott Kalitta. Earlier today in round number 1, Scott ran the quickest elapsed time in the history of drag racing when he put down a 4.72 to win in the first round of competition.
awesome. Dick told me it was going to do that yesterday, and it went out there and smoked the tires in about half track, and I had to use a little bit of brake, and then it burned up, and 72 is awesome. I told him, he asked me what I wanted to run in Houston, what we thought it would take, and I said, well, between 72 and 74. He said, okay, that's what I thought too. Hopefully we can keep it up.
I'll be down on the starting line a little bit later on today talking to the crew chiefs, but right now, let's go talk to the guy that's making Scott Kalitta's car run those big numbers. This is Dick LaHaye. Dick, you've got one leg up on the national record. Are you thinking record or thinking win the race?
Well, we always think about winning the race, but you got to take it one round at a time. And that's our main objective right now, is to just win the next round. And these cars are running on such a fine line that anything can happen. You know, if an ant crawled across the track and you run over it, it could spin the tires. So, you know, it would just be, you know, devastating to do this, but, you know, we just have to keep it running as quick as we can.
If you run over that ant, you're going to get over him in a hurry, aren't you?
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
Won't be a good day for the ant. Might not be a good day for the rest of the cars in Top Fuel either.
You're absolutely right, Bob. The Scott and Dick team has come on strong. The 1994 NHRA Slick 50 Nationals presented by Western Auto is being brought to you by new advanced high-tech formula Quaker State Motor Oil. It's formulated for today's high-tech engines. And by Allied Signals Autolite Spark Plugs. Guaranteed for 2 years, no matter how far you go. Here come Kurt Johnson and Ricky Smith. It's almost time for Pro Stock round number 2 when we come back.
Makes them mad.
You're looking at the spinning tire of Kurt Johnson, and here is his opponent, Ricky Smith, in the Slick 50 Pontiac. It was quite a battle in round number 1 when Smith pulled off the upset of the round, defeating Bob Glidden in the Ford Thunderbird. Kurt Johnson qualified number 4 at a great 7-10 and defeated Bruce Allen in the Chevrolet in his first round matchup. He ran a 7-17. Smith had qualified with a 7-14, good for 12th. He also ran 7-17 to beat Glidden in the first round, almost equal as they approach the starting line here. Ricky Smith, noted for great reaction times. Kurt Johnson, of course, finishing second to his dad last season in the Winston points chase, regarded by many as one of the true rising stars of professional drag racing. Well, both drivers just sitting in the pre-stage beams. Nobody has moved forward yet. Who's going to break first? Finally, they start to creep into the beams. Kurt's there. Ricky Smith taking his time. He makes it. Ricky Smith got the advantage at the starting line. Kurt Johnson was able to pull it out on performance. A 7-12, 193-mile-an-hour run. A losing 7-18 for Smith, but he did get the advantage off the starting line the whole shot. The next pair, it is the Oldsmobile versus Dodge battle continuing, but this time it is Larry Morgan at the wheel of the Castrol Super Clean Cutlass against Darrell Alderman. The lane choice here going to Alderman. Now let's go down to the far end of the racetrack and join Steve.
When you race Ricky Smith, you have to be ready for anything on the starting line, and you were.
Yeah, I knew that he wanted to come in there last. He came in there against Bob. He took 6 seconds, and they should have thrown a switch on him. I guess they lost count up there somehow.
Guess what? Now you get one of those Jeeps, as you like to call them.
One of them Jeeps. I'm just glad to be in the semifinals. You know, we haven't missed a semifinal since Seattle last year. My crew, Bill Smith and Pat Baird, they're doing an excellent job on this Cumberland Motorsports Oldsmobile.
Keep it up.
Kurt Johnson headed into the semifinal round of competition, while back at the starting line, Darrell Alderman brings one of those Dodges, or Jeep, as the Johnsons like to refer to them. Of course, there isn't much off-roading going on here, just covering a quarter of a mile as quickly as possible. Alderman has the lane choice based on a 7-13 in the first round. Larry Morgan ran a 7-20 when he defeated George Marnell. The quicker qualified car, though, is Alderman. He was number 2 at a 7:06. But the book here is he shook the tires violently against Tim Jost in the first round. They have changed wheel sizes to try to get a hold of the pavement. Let's see if it works. Morgan all over the racetrack. He is forced to shut it down while Darrell Alderman runs low. ET of eliminations, a 7:07 at 195.5 miles an hour. And look at this. Guess who's got lane choice? Scott Jeffrey on, obviously. He wants to be in the lane where Darrell just won the race. We'll be right back. The reigning Winston champion in Top Fuel Eliminator, Eddie Hill, with a wave for our cameras. He is autographing T-shirts. We'll have a whole lot more on the Eddie Hill story in just a few moments, but right now, back to the starting line, and Mark Cowboy Poway starts spinning the big Goodyears on his Pro Stock car, the Summit Racing Oldsmobile. And Steve has had a chance to catch up with Darrell Alderman.
That 707 wasn't quite as easy as it looked, was it?
No, it wasn't. You know, the first round we went left real bad. We had 15-inch rims on it. We put 16-inch rims on it, and it really hooked up. Raised the front wheels up in second gear there. I knew it was on a heck of a pass.
Did you know that Kurt Johnson calls that pretty Dodge Daytona a Jeep?
Well, you know, I think Scott and I probably have some names for the Oldsmobiles, too.
Just put it in four-wheel drive and go.
That's right.
Well, he's still smiling about it. Call it a Jeep or call it a Dodge. He is in the semifinals. We're on board with Scott Jeffrey on as you see him backing into his own tracks. David Hutchins, the crew chief on Jeffreyon's car, watching as the same activity going on in the opposite lane. Dave Butner, the crew chief for Mark Poway, directing him into the spot he won. Mark had qualified in the number 8 spot with a 7:12 and beat Mark Osborne in the first round with a 7:15. Jeffrey on the number 1 qualifier at a 7:03, just missing the shot at the 6-second club to be the first driver to do it. He ran a 7:10 in his first round victory. That came at the expense of the number 16 qualifier, Jerry Ekman. Again, Oldsmobile and Dodge here in Houston. The advantage at the starting line, but it didn't help him much. A 7:10, 195-mile-an-hour charge by Scott Jeffreyon. That advances him into the semis. Let's take a look at that run once again. Mark Poway got the advantage, but you'd never know it from Scott Jeffreyon's position. You're on board in the Flying Dodge. He just crossed the finish line at over 195 miles an hour. Let's go to the far end. Steve is with Scott Jeffreyon.
Your partner runs an 07, you run a 10, the Dodges are hooked up.
Yeah, it sounds like his little Dodge was hooked up a little better than my little Dodge. But, you know, these guys from Wayne County, it's just every run, it's just, you know, who gets it down the track a little bit better, that's who's going to run a little quicker, because there's so much parity between these two cars in the Wayne County camp, it's immeasurable.
For the fans, a great Final Four coming up.
I'm not sure who's in the Final Four, but it might be the same guys, is it?
It is.
Well, it's going to be fun. It always is.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Steve, I think you're getting just a bit anxious. 3 of the 4 of the semifinalists are the same drivers that have been in the semis for the last 2 consecutive races. But there is possibly a spoiler for this man. Warren Johnson qualified in the number 3 spot. He won his first round race over Steve Schmidt with a 7:10. That gives him lane choice over the surprising Jim Yates, who had qualified in the number 6 spot at a 7:11, beat David Rampey with an identical time, 7:11 in the first round. There are many who regard Yates as the one person with the opportunity to jump into that group, the very elite group of the Dodges and the Johnsons. Both drivers sitting in the pre-stage beams. Now, who's going to go in first? Johnson likes to stage last. It is Jim Yates rolling in. He's set. Here comes Warren. Yates in the Dynamax Pontiac got a slight advantage at the starting line, but WJ's GM Performance Parts Oldsmobile had the power. The winning time for Warren Johnson, a 7:11 at 195 miles an hour. As we watch again in replay, keep that number in mind, just a fraction of a second slower than either one of the Dodges that are in the semifinals. Boy, Yates gave him more than he expected, though. As they approached the finish line, the Oldsmobile was just barely able to pull ahead, and it was about a fender-length margin of victory in time. 22 thousandths of a second, the margin for Warren Johnson. That sets up the semis. Scott Jeffrey on in the Dodge against Kurt Johnson in the Oldsmobile. Scott has the lane choice for Warren Johnson and Darrell Alderman. The answer there, Darrell holding the choice of lanes. Steve?
A nice 11, but it's going to cost you lane choice. Kurt doesn't have it either.
Well, we're in the semifinals. That's all that matters. You can't win a race until you get one round at a time.
Been a lot of lane jockeying going on back there, though.
Yeah, there's been some oil downs out there and whatnot going on. So, you know, you just take a shot at it, what you feel is the best lane. Sometimes it is, but unfortunately, sometimes it isn't.
Get psyched up.
We're ready.
Warren Johnson heads into the final four in Pro Stock Eliminator, and in just a moment, we'll show you why Joe Amato is lucky to be in round number 2.
Announcing the biggest...
Scott Jeffrey on now signing the autograph. He's getting himself mentally prepared to race Kurt Johnson in the semifinals of Pro Stock. That's going to be coming up just a little bit later on. Well, right now, we get ready to go with Top Fuel Eliminator round number 2, and Connie Kalitta comes to the starting line. His opponent in round number 2, Mike Dunn at the wheel of Darrell Gwynn's La Victoria Salsa McGuire's Waxes entry. For Connie Kalitta, this has been quite a season. He and his son Scott have teamed up for American International Airways, the company that Connie owns, to field a couple of the best top fuel dragsters this sport's ever seen. It takes more than just the driver to make these cars run, and Connie has got one of the best crew chiefs in the business in Tim Richards, the guy that wrenched Joe Amato to 4.5, if you will, Winston championships. He left in the middle of the season of Joe's 5th championship win. Mike Dunn qualified in the number 10 spot with a 4.85 elapsed time, and his first round opponent, the reigning Winston champion, Eddie Hill. Hill had lots of problems. It was not until the last 2 qualifying efforts that he even made the show, ending up number 7 at a 4.81. Had great hopes in the first round as we rode on board. And there you saw Mike Dunn blast away for the win. His elapsed time was a 4.91. Eddie Hill went up in smoke. Kalitta qualified number 2. His time, the quickest ever in his long career, a 4.77. He defeated Jim Head in the first round to earn the right to race Mike Dunn. Giant wheel stand for Kalitta. Dunn has some engine problems, and Connie wins it at a 4.80, 2.98. Let's go down to the starting line and Bob Fry.
We having fun now?
This is, it's a lot of fun working for Connie. I mean, win or lose, he makes it enjoyable. I mean, I don't know when I've been as happy working in a fuel team.
Looks like these guys might be on a collision course, father and son.
I hope they are.
Not only is it fun for Tim Richards, but it's fun for us to watch when Connie pulls gyrations like this. Look how high the front end gets. And Connie, the veteran that won his first race back in 1967, has no intention of lifting at all. Down at the far end, here's Steve.
You flew this thing like an airplane the first few hundred feet.
It was up there, and then it walked out of the groove on top of it, which wasn't very nasty. It was sort of nasty.
Wishing you could put the flaps down.
Well, the front wing we got on the car helps it quite a bit. It'll pull it right down.
Happy with the 480?
Yeah. Now Tim knows where he's at.
If Scott wins, guess what? Father and son go head-to-head.
And you don't think there's any rivalry there, do you? Back at the starting line, Don Prudhomme against Corey McLenithan. Corey Mack holds the lane choice here. He had a 4.79 victory in his first round of competition. Don Prudhomme consistent in the 4.80 range. That's where he qualified with. Of course, the interesting story on Prudhomme, this is his final season as a driver. He has dubbed it the Final Strike Tour. For Corey Mack, for the first 2 races this season, he had been the number 1 qualifier. But they fell off just a little bit here to the number 5 spot with a 4.79 elapsed time. That's right, 4.79 was good for 5th. Prudhomme had qualified 4th at a 4.79, just thousandths ahead of Corey Mack. The McDonald's dragster owned by Larry Miner is under the head wrenching of that man Lee Beard. In the first round, Corey Mack beat another young lion in Top Fuel, Bad Austin. Don Prudhomme, using the services of Wes Cerny this season as his crew chief, beat Rochelle Splat, who was the last person to join the Slick 50 300-mile-an-hour club. Great race, and Don Prudhomme pulls off the upset. 487 at 285 miles an hour. Don Prudhomme won this one on a hole shot. Look again. Watch the car in the near lane. He moves perceptibly ahead of Corey McLenithan. Corey Mack got the wheels up. Don Prudhomme stayed stuck to the pavement, though, as they battled down the racetrack. It was neck and neck, and until they reached the finish line, nobody knew who was going to win this one, and it was Prudhomme pulling it out by 8 thousandths of a second.
Now you know why they call him the Snake. Your 87 beat his 84.
Just lucky. Just lucky. They're running better than us right now. This is the car to beat, and it's just my turn. You know, up there, you just never know what happens.
You changed lanes just before the race.
Yeah, we've been slipping the tire pretty hard in the left-hand lane, and when they oiled down a little bit, we thought we'd have a little better traction, and we did, but I guess the driver didn't do his job this time.
The Final Strike Tour will not be a cruise. It's serious.
No, it's big-time serious. Trust me, I don't want to go out a loser on this tour, so, you know, Wes Cerny, whole Skull Bandit crew, they're doing a hell of a job.
Don Prudhomme adding a great deal to the team effort and adding to the legend of the Snake. That is Jimmy Brock, the new crew chief for Joe Amato, and you're on board the Team Valvoline car. Our camera position here is mounted on the wing on the back of the car. You're looking down on the engine of that man, Joe Amato. His opponent here in round number 2 is Rance McDaniel. Rance had qualified in the number 8 spot with a fine 482, and in the first round beat Michael Brotherton. Joe Amato had qualified number 1 at a 475. It's hard to remember the last time Joe was number 1. And in the first round, he was against Bob Vandergriff Jr. in the Fruit of the Loom Activewear car. That was the right rear tire exploding. Joe had his hands full.
Do you even know what happened?
Well, the tire blew. I mean, it's hard to say what made the tire blow. It probably, look, the valve cover's got a hole in it. I mean, it could have threw a piece into it or something. It's hard to say, you know.
Close to the wall?
Yeah, it was really hauling, and then all of a sudden the thing just, it blew the tire and it settled right down and it started to squirt all around, but I never saw him coming, so I just kind of didn't want to try and stop it on the track. I just kind of coasted it through, and then I hit the fuel shut off.
And you'll be back?
I think we'll be back, yeah. We got the parts, and my boys will fix it. As long as there's no frame damage and it looks like it's good.
Jimmy Brock and the crew went back to the pits after that first round incident, rebuilt the race car, and put it on the line here against Rance McDaniel. Round number 2 at the Slick 50 Nationals at Houston Raceway Park. From start to finish, Joe Amato has the win at a 487, 293-mile-an-hour charge. We'll be right back to Houston with more Top Fuel action. Every day. Scott Jeffrey on signing autographs. We'll look at Kurt Johnson, his opponent in the semifinals. He's hard at work on his Oldsmobile. We'll have Pro Stock action a little bit later. Right now, we're in the midst of Top Fuel, and you're seeing double. There is a difference in the paint schemes on those American International Airways cars, and this one is Scott Kalitta. Alongside of him is the winner of the race out in Pomona, California, the season-opening Winter Nationals, Shelly Anderson. Steve?
All right, Joe, let's count the tires on this car. 1, 2, yeah, they're all there.
All them good years are there, buddy. They worked good that time.
They were slipping pretty hard in the middle of the racetrack. You can tell by looking at the tires.
Yeah, well, it's loose down the end. You know, that's what this track's been all weekend. You know, we ran 303. It was just like that. We'll take it. A win light is a win light. I guess this dog can hunt, huh?
Yeah, you won't have lane choice, though, for the dog.
Well, we're happy just to get the win light. After what happened the first round, for the team to come back and to put it together and go out. And what did we run, by the way?
88.
Oh, 88. We'll take it. We had to back down. We just were nervous because they tried to smoke the tires.
Amato and the Snake in the Final 4.
Steve, that's a race to look forward to, but so is the one on the starting line. Shelly Anderson has been running exceptionally well. Scott Kalitta, of course, has got one leg up on the national record. He ran that 472 in the first round, and his crew chief, Dick LaHaye, is confident they'll be able to gather in the required 1% backup run. You can't set a national record on just a single pass. You have to back it up within 1% sometime before you are eliminated from competition. Shelly Anderson has been running exceptionally well. She qualified number 6 at a 479. Beat Tommy Johnson Jr. in round number 1, who was the 15th member of the 300-mile-an-hour club. Scott Kalitta had joined in several races earlier. He had qualified 3rd here at a great 477 and beat Ed McCulloch in that historic first-round race with a 472. Both cars shaking and smoking the tires, and Shelly Anderson crosses the center line. She is disqualified at that point. Scott Kalitta, regardless of the time, takes the victory and advances to the semifinals to race who else but his dad. Bob?
Gee, a 9:03. Not exactly what we had in the game plan, huh?
Well, not really, but you know, when you're running as quick as we're running and so forth, we're walking a real fine line there. And there was a possibility that it would smoke the tires, but we felt as though we could get it down the racetrack. And then we was trying to back the record up and win the round. And, you know, I mean, you're trying to do everything at one time, right? And we'll go back now. Fortunately, we won the round. We'll go back and we'll calm it down and we'll race Connie in the next round and go from there.
Little bragging rights up for stake in this next round?
Well, I think there may be, yeah.
So do I.
Bob, I would agree, but one thing to remember, Connie holds the wallet. Here we look in replay at this run. You'll see, first it was a red light for Shelly Anderson, then real trouble set in. The tires smoking and shaking. She crossed over the center line behind Scott Kalitta, was able to gather it back in and get it back into her lane before any serious problems developed. But for Scotty, the all-important round victory to bring him up against his dad in round number 3, the final 4, and Connie holds the lane choice. Don Prudhomme gets to pick his lane over Joe Amato on the other side of the ladder. Steve?
You saw the red light, obviously, or you'd have been on the gas.
Yeah, you know, normal reactions, you know, I shouldn't have stepped back on it when it smoked the tires, but I remembered that she red lit, and that's why I got back off it. So
She crossed the center line behind you as well.
Didn't even know that.
Guess what?
Yeah, that's what everybody's been waiting for.
It's Connie and Connie.
It'll be fun.
And there'll be a Kalitta in the final. We know that for sure.
Which one will it be? We'll find out in just a bit. In the Pro Stock pit area, you're looking at the crew for Warren Johnson, getting his car ready for the semifinal round race against Darrell Alderman. We'll be back at Houston Raceway Park in the Slick 50 Nationals. Don't go away.
My buddy told me to buy.
Slick 50 Nationals presented by Western Auto, and they're packing the McDonald's tent to head for home. Corey Mack has only one consolation. He holds the record at the moment, and if Scott Kalitta does not back it up, he'll keep it at the end of this event here at Houston. This is Mark Oswald, the In-N-Out Burger Penn Hall International car, tuned by Bill Schultz. His competition, the racer out of Southern California, the school teacher from Bellflower, Gary Densham at the wheel of his Oldsmobile Cutlass. This is round number 2 of competition in Funny Car Eliminator, those nitro-burning cars using power plants very similar to the Top Fuel dragsters we've been watching. Gary Densham qualified 10th at a 5:28 and beat Dean Scusa in a tire smoker in the first round, while Mark Oswald was the number 2 qualifier at a 5:05, and he beat Paula Martin in the first round with a 5:18. That gave him lane choice here in the second round. Oswald, a former Winston champion, it was way back in 1984 that he drove the Candies and Hughes team car to a Winston Funny Car Championship for the entire season. The staging just as critical for these drivers as it is for the Pro Stocks and the Top Fuel. If you can gain an advantage at the start, you can outrun a quicker opponent. Oswald's in trouble, crosses over the center line. That will disqualify him and move Gary Densham into the semifinals. But they've got some work. Look at the nose on the Oldsmobile. It is caved in. Maybe we'll see an instant replay what happened. Oswald crossed the center line, hit a cone. That's one. There's 2. Both of them in the same spot, hit by Gary Densham. Now, they are just styrofoam, but at 200 miles an hour plus, they have gained a lot of weight. Here is Al Hoffman in his Western Auto Slick 50 Dodge Daytona. Down at the far end of the track, here's Steve.
It's nice to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Oh, I know it. I tell you, we weren't even going to come here because we lost our sponsor at the beginning of the year, but we looked so bad at Phoenix, we had to come here and redeem ourselves a little bit.
A little bit of glass damage down here, but not too bad.
We'll get it fixed, Steve.
The confidence of Gary Dencham as he heads to the semifinal round. An overflow crowd looking on is Tom Hoover, and his Pioneer Art of Entertainment Dodge Daytona back into position. Hoover qualified very well, number 5 in a 5:14, and beat Gordy Bonnet in the first round. Meantime, Al Hoffman, his opponent here in the second round, had qualified 4th at a 5:12 and beat Whit Bazemore with a lackluster 5:32 in the first round. I would guess if he hopes to be competitive, he's going to have to step on it just a little bit. Tommy Anderson, his crew chief, one of the most talented wrenches in the business, along with his wife Helen. Al Hoffman becoming a formidable force in funny car competition. You're on board. And Hoover is right alongside of him. About a half a car length is all that separated the two at the finish line. 5:20 at 263 miles an hour, the winning time for Hoffman. Hoover actually ran quicker. The advantage off the starting line, 0.06 of a second, went to Al Hoffman. If his car won't run the number, Al just rose to the occasion in this case and had a big advantage at the start. The elapsed time for Hoover of 5:19 at 283 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour faster than Hoffman, but Hoffman left first and got there first. Down at the far end, Steve.
Al, you don't need to thank Tom Anderson or any sponsors. They should all be thanking you. A whole shot won it.
Well, I'm trying to do my job out here. I don't know what to run, but I know it's spun the tires hard again.
20 to a 19.
Yeah, if we can keep doing our job, Western Auto Slick 50 keeps coming back. I mean, I love Hoover, and he's a good competitor, but if I got to win, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Al Hoffman getting it all together here in the third race of this 1994 season. In the pit area of Scott Kalitta, he is the man who's got a leg up on a national record. Dick LaHaye is hoping the tune-up will work. We'll know in just a bit at Houston.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Slick 50 Nationals here on ESPN. It was in 1965 that Don Prudhomme won his first ever NHRA Top Fuel title, driving for a young Hawaiian named Roland Leong. They split up at the end of that year, but both went on to have great careers in the sport. And how fitting it is on the final strike tour, Roland Leong is in a snake suit. Gotta have kind of mixed emotions about this, though, don't you?
Well, I feel we kind of started together, grew up in the sport, and I like to see him go with a big bang.
Well, you're making good progress today. What about the semifinal round?
Well, you know, with Wes Cerny working here and the guys that Prudhomme got, I'm just here helping him and wishing him good luck, and hope he goes out like a bang, like I said.
Can't get better help than this, folks. Roland Leong.
Well, Don Prudhomme's gain is certainly funny car's loss as the Hawaiian is parked at least for the moment. Here is Jim Eppler and his Ruck Dr. Oldsmobile. His competition in round number 2 is John Ford. But it was in the first round, the story of Casey Spurlock, winner at Pomona just a month earlier, and currently the leader in the Winston points chase. He was in the far lane and left way too soon. The red light glowing at the starting line, automatic disqualification. Eppler used that break to advance here to round number 2 to race John Force, who had qualified number 3 at a 5:06 and beat Richard Hartman in the first round with a great 5:12. Eppler's first round experience, not necessarily what he had hoped for. Mike Clover, his crew chief, of course, responsible for the first run ever over 300 miles an hour. That was back at Topeka last October. But Eppler ran a 10-second time against Spurlock's red light, and he didn't shut it off. He shook the tires, smoked him a little bit, and was forced to lift. The Kestrel GTX Chevy Lumina of John Force trying to repeat once again as a Winston champion. Again, the red light for Eppler's opponent. John Force left way too soon, and he wasted a great 5:23. Eppler at 5:77 coasts across the finish line, the winner. Bob?
Mike, you've been around this for a while. When was the last time you saw John Force foul out?
I don't know if I ever remember seeing him do that before, but we've been having real good luck against John. We're just thankful we get another shot at it. Thank you.
They're glad that if he found out, they did it against them.
And that red light moved Jim Eppler into the semifinals. Here, let's look at it again. Watch Force in the far lane. See that bright red light? Everybody knows that he's been disqualified. Down at the far end of the racetrack, Steve is with John.
I do not remember the last time John Force red lighted. What happened? You didn't know?
You ain't seen the heart attack yet. I did?
You did, yeah.
I red lighted? Wow. Well, what can I say? That's part of the ball game.
Well, if you didn't see it, it must have been very close.
I didn't see it.
Sorry to see you out.
I thought it was just looking toward the next round. Well, that shows you Spurlock ain't the only one. It's part of the game, but what can I say to Castle and the boys at Jolly Rancher? I'm sorry, gang. Didn't know what happened.
Man is human.
And Steve, when you bear information like that, you almost take all the words away from John Force. Back at the starting line, this is the Kendall Dodge. Chuck Etchells is at the wheel. His competition, the number 16 qualifier, Gary Bolger. That's right, in round number 2, we're talking about the number 16 qualifier still in competition. And the way the cars pair up in round number 1, that means Gary Bolger pulled off the upset of the meet. The Genoa, Illinois driver was running against Cruz Pedregon, who had established low elapsed time with the McDonald's Oldsmobile at a 5.02 seconds in qualifying. And watch this. Tire smoke, handling problems, everything went wrong for Cruz.
Cruiser first rounds are just brutal.
Yeah, they are, Steve. You know, it's very disappointing to lose here at Houston, you know, we're going up there trying to run our normal deal. We weren't trying to step on it, but, you know, those things happen. These things are so temperamental, but we'll be back in Gainesville for sure.
See you there.
Cruz, runner-up 2 weeks ago, and hoped to get the momentum rolling here at Houston. Chuck Etchells hoped for some momentum. He had qualified with a 5:24. That put him in the number 9 spot. And in his first round race, improved to a 5:21 when he beat up on Kenji Okazaki. Now it is Gary Bolger, the upset-minded guy from Genoa, Illinois, trying to take the measure of Etchells. Not to be, as Chuck Etchells on a pretty run ran a 5:18 at 287 miles an hour. His new crew chief this year is John Medlin. Bob Fry is with him at the starting line.
5:18, I'd be happy with that. Are you? Yeah, we're very happy right now. That's a little better. We've been whittling away at it all weekend and looked at some problem areas and haven't been able to find them until first round and this round. So we'll just keep whittling at them, hope we do the best. Nice program now that Force is out of here. We love it right now. So do the rest of the Funny Car drivers and teams.
And Bob, the fans are going to love this semifinal round matchup. Al Hoffman against Chuck Etchells. Etchells holds the lane choice by a mere 17 thousandths of a second. Can Jim Eppler continue his winning ways? Gary Dencham hopes to stop him. Steve?
With Cruz out, with Force out, Chucky E., you're in a position to take control of this race.
You forgot Hoffman, and he's still in, and that's who we got. But
your 18 is going to give you lane choice over him now.
Well, can't be happier. John Medlin and the crew are doing a great job, and we're just going to try and keep on moving.
This is one magnificent racetrack, Houston Raceway Park. We'll pick up on the Pro Stock Wars when we come back. Who's got? Hi, and Steve Evans. I'm Dave McClellan, and we are joining tens of thousands of people that are jammed in here for this kind of excitement. The Oldsmobiles and the Dodges. This is Scott Jeffrey on in the far lane in the Mopar Parts Dodge Daytona, the leader of the Dodge boys. His opponent is the young lion in Pro Stock Racing, Kurt Johnson, the son of the Winston champ, the guy that finished number 2 in his rookie season as a Pro Stock driver. At the wheel of the 500 cubic inch Oldsmobile, Kurt was unable to keep the lane choice as Jeffrey on had the quicker elapsed time in the previous round, a 7:10 to Kurt's 7:12. 500 cubic inches maximum in these cars. 2 4-barrel carburetors running on racing gasoline. They are a highly sophisticated race car underneath the body that started life as an original car. They must pass a template test that the NHRA technical officials put each one of these Pro Stock cars through so they maintain the rules integrity for each and every entry. Who's Who's going to go in first? This is as much a battle at the starting line as it is at the finish line. Scott's in. The motors are up. Scott Jeffreyon runs a great 7:09 at 195 miles an hour to beat Kurt Johnson 7:14. Let's watch this one again. In the far lane, the advantage off the starting line was Jeffreyon. At the finish line, the performance advantage was his as well. This is one of those races you would describe from wire to wire. Scott Jeffreyon took the measure of Kurt Johnson. The margin of victory at the finish line was 62 thousandths of a second. Minimal time indeed, but look how much space that is. More than a full car length. Steve?
Starting line wasn't even a contest. You welded him.
Well, you know, Kurt's been pretty hard on me last year, and it's payback time this year. And guys from Wayne County giving me the car to do it this year. Not that they didn't last year, but believe me, with 2 Dodges out here, it makes my job that much easier. You know, we're having a lot of fun out here today. Now I'm a cheerleader right now. I'm rooting for my teammate, and then we're competitors, I hope.
7:09.
Thank you very much, Steve.
All right, we'll all watch this one.
And of course, Steve Scott is rooting for Darrell Alderman at the wheel of the other Dodge. He has got one obstacle in his way, and it is a formidable mountain indeed. And that is Warren Johnson in the GM Performance Parts Oldsmobile. Coming into this race, 7:07 was the time for Alderman. He has the lane choice, goes in the track print that Scott Jeffreyon left just a few moments ago. The time of a 7:11 for Johnson indicates he is a few hundredths of a second behind, at least on paper. But as we've already seen, a couple of hundredths of a second can easily be made up with a good start. That's why we're watching these staging battles develop as the drivers try to maybe pull a little psychological ploy on their opponent, trying to gain every bit of advantage they can, be it at the starting line or at the finish line. The burnouts are over now. We come to the starting line. And as we have seen in practically every race thus far, who's going to go into that second beam first? The lights at the top of the Christmas tree indicate to the driver where he is on the racetrack. The first one is a pre-stage light. That means he is just a few inches away from the actual starting line. And as the car rolls forward and lights that second bulb, that tells starter Buster Couch he's ready to go. The other driver then is under a count to get into the staging beam. Johnson didn't have the lane choice, but it did not matter. He ran a 7:07 and got the starting line advantage as well. Inside the car with Darrell Alderman looking across. Look how Warren Johnson just pulled ahead of Darrell Alderman almost instantly. As Darrell pulled the parachute release, he knew one thing. He was not going to be in the final round. Warren Johnson had won the race and will match Scott Jeffreyon for the championship.
Well, Warren, you saw what happened to Kurt, and you dug down deep. 7:07, lane choice and all.
Well, some days it goes your way, some days it doesn't. We just made a bunch of changes on this thing. This crew worked so hard on this car. I basically had a new car for that round. That's why I went 7:07.
You really haven't had this kind of pressure for a couple of years.
Anytime you're in a race and there's 16 cars, I don't care how fast or how slow they are, there's pressure.
Well, the pressure is definitely mounting in the Kalitta camp. That's who we'll see when we come back. Connie and Scott battle it out in Top Fuel.
Every day.
NHRA Winston Championship drag racing events, and I cannot recall the last time I saw a father and son race in Top Fuel Eliminator. And what a showdown this one's going to be. There's some extra special pressure riding on Scott and his crew chief, Dick LaHaye, and that is the need for a backup run for the new national record. While we've got a moment, let me invite you to join a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For just $52 a year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, a pin, a rule book, and a whole bunch more. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, you'll get a free copy of Diamond B's home video, Drag Racing 92. Make that call today. Scott Kalitta trying to back up. The quickest elapsed time this sport has ever seen, 4.72 seconds. The guy that is trying to stop him is his dad, Connie Kalitta, the fellow that picked up all the bills on both race cars. Connie, the owner of American International Airways. And I said a few moments ago that you thought you were seeing double. Well, these are not two identical cars. There is a slight variation in the paint scheme. See if you can pick it up. It has to do with the front half of the car. Dick LaHaye making a final check of the motor in Scott's car. Our camera paints the picture for you. Look at Connie's car. It is much darker on the nose piece than is the car of Scott. The fadeaway paint jobs actually are opposite on the two cars. That's how you tell them apart. American International Airways, Kalitta versus Kalitta. What more could you ask for? Scott with the win. 474 backs up his record, the quickest side-by-side run in history. Connie went 478. Incredible run.
474, 293, great numbers. Punched out the old man, and bragging rights to you for this race.
Well, it's to the whole team, you know, it's just for the Kalitta deal and the American International Airways. And this is a two-car team, and we are working as a team, and we're having a lot of fun. And that was the quickest side-by-side race in the history of drag racing. And we also backed up the national record at 472.
Other than that, not a bad day.
Scott Kalitta advances into the final round with this run, and what a beautiful picture this one is. The two team cars heading down the racetrack. Scott Kalitta prevailing by just about a car length at the finish line. The speed for Scotty, 293. The speed for his dad, Connie, 291. But the ETs tell the tale, 474 to a 478.
Scott, you and your dad just ran the fastest side-by-side race in NHRA history, a 74 to a 78.
Awesome. That means we got the record. Good deal. He got me a little bit on the starting line. I could see out of the corner of my eye. They said it was about 200. So, well, you know, obviously that ain't what I wanted to see. But I beat him, so I can go home now as far as I'm concerned.
There'll be a rematch soon.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, according to the numbers, Scott pole-shotted the dad, got the starting line advantage. Back at that starting line, Don Prudhomme and the Skull Bandit and Joe Amato have got to be talking to themselves watching that kind of performance out of the Kalitta clan. Prudhomme holds the lane choice here at a 487 in the previous round, a 488 for Joe Amato. Again, our vantage point high atop the engine. You can see what happened with it. That is Jimmy Brock. A year ago, he was the head wrench for Corey McLenison. During the offseason, he made the switch to the team Valvoline car, and now he is working his magic for Joe Amato, and it is definitely taking hold. For 3 consecutive races, Joe Amato has run a 475 on 3 very different racetracks. For Don Prudhomme, the best performance we have seen out of him for quite some time. He gives all the credit to the guy that joined his team during the offseason, Wes Cerny. What a view we have from atop the wing on Joe Amato's race car. Looking down 1,320 feet of racing surface here in Houston in the Slick 50 Nationals. And Joe Amato red light. Unbelievable. He leaves the starting line too soon. And Don Prudhomme wins it. Coming into this race, who would have picked Don Prudhomme? The odds makers would have been driven crazy. But the snake has prevailed into the final round. Bob Fry?
486, but I think right now the last thing on your mind is the time. The snake's going to the finals.
We're in the final. That's where we want to be, and we're happy for Skull and the snake. He's doing a great job, and we're just loving it.
He wins too many of these. He might want to stick around for another year.
Oh, you can't tell. Who knows?
Great job by the snake and Wes Cerny.
You might remember Cerny from Kenny Bernstein's team, who, by the way, did not qualify at this event. It'll be Prudhomme and Scott Kalitta in the finals, with the national record holder holding lane choice.
The Vipe, the snake, the final round.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, it's been a while, but man, you know, I just want to thank, you know, Skull and Wes Cerny, all the guys in the crew, you know.
wins, and Pontiac, everybody that stuck with me. It's indeed a thrill to be back in at least running for the final round. You know, it's great. Too bad about Joe. I saw that red light he pulled up there. What happened,
Wait a
pal?
minute, hold it. I can salve that wound. You just got the points lead, however.
Well, that's all we want is the points lead. But I would like to take a shot at the snake here. You know, we've been going at it back and forth.
Yeah.
Good run, you know. Just try to get too aggressive on the light. You know how that stuff goes. You've been there before.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I've been pushing the light all day. We both good friends.
That's our mind. Talk among yourselves. I got to go.
Thanks a lot.
The Final Strike Tour. What a moment this is early on in the '94 season.
Only 3 races old, and Don Prudhomme, definitely a player. Semifinals of Money Car Eliminator, you are looking as the 2 cars back up after their burnout. The Western Auto Slick 50 Dodge, driven by Al Hoffman. Al's best effort in round number 2 was not enough. He did not earn the lane choice with a 5.20 second elapsed time. That distinction and honor went to his opponent, Chuck Etchells. Etchells at the wheel of the Kendall GT1 Dodge. Needs a jump start for his season, and this race at Houston may just provide it. He had a great 5.18. 2 very tough teams, and now one of these drivers is going to make a major leap in the Winston points chase by making it to the finals of this Slick 50 National. The 2 lanes appear to be relatively equal, as we saw in Top Fuel, when you can run a 474 and a 478 on the same race. Only 0.04 of a second difference, and both cars hooked up. That means the lane choice may not be as critical as it is at other events. Problems for Chuck Etchells right before the finish line. The supercharger drive belt came off, and Al Hoffman got the break of 5.20 at 289 miles an hour. Vaults him into the finals.
This man just went in the finals. You should be smiling.
Yeah, we are. It's a Western Auto Slick 50 race, and we're a Western Auto Slick 50 car, and we love it.
520 going to be good enough to win?
It's hard to tell. We've still got a problem down there with it spinning the tires. We put a new BDS blower on at that time, and it was a little stout, I think, so we have to calm it down a little bit.
2 finals in the first 3 races. Good start for the Dodge Daytona.
And that good start is just enough to put Al Hoffman into the lead in the Winston points chase based upon this win over Chuck Etchells in round number 2. As we look in replay, watch Etchells' car in the far lane at about the 1,000-foot mark. You'll see a lot of raw fuel start to come out of the header pipe. That indicates a problem with the engine. And you may even get to see the supercharger drive belt snake its way from underneath the car, indicating that Etchells had lost power at that point. There's lots of power here, though, some 5,000 estimated, as Mike Clover lowers the body down over Jim Eppler. But Clover admits readily that they don't have a handle on getting the power to the ground. The only reason Jim Eppler is here in the semifinals with the Rug Doctor Oldsmobile is that every opponent leading up to this point has red-lighted against him. Here in the semifinals, he is racing Gary Densham, and this could be a fairly good race because neither driver has been exceptional in terms of elapsed time. The bigger problem has got to be Eppler's. He has not made a good, solid pass down the racetrack. Densham had qualified well, but during elimination, his performance has fallen off as well. If it were not enough, then Mike Clover's got to worry about getting all of that horsepower to the ground on Eppler's car. He's also got to be wondering, when is this string of good fortune going to spool off the reel and come to a halt? For Gary Densham, a bit unusual to see him in the semifinals. Not a criticism at all of his effort or his performance, but without the major sponsorship, it is difficult indeed to make it to the Final Four. It is definitely a tribute to the tenacity of Densham that we see him here in Houston over the last 18 months. He has had several devastating fires that destroyed the body on the race car, but he came out of it unscathed, has always been able to repair, and now wants to stop Jim Eppler. Shuts it off, and Ripley would love this one. Believe it or not, 3 straight red lights put Jim Eppler in the finals. Bob?
I think there's the numbers you guys were looking for. Yeah, red light was nice. I like that. That part was real good. I've got a real serious problem with the car. I can't figure it out.
Mike, you guys both ran in the left lane in that round, both you and, of course, Hoffman. Is lane choice a factor in the final?
No, I don't think so. The track is usually real good here. The sun's gone down, and I think it'll be the best car will win the final round. We'll have to really stand on the gas and figure out why he's having to shut it off out there at three-quarter track. We keep having problems, and got to get a computer rating this time.
We'll let you go figure it out, Mike.
Now that's a rarity, an honest man. He says, I don't know what's wrong. Gary Ditcham red lights away his shot at Jim Eppler, and with a 6:18, the Rug Dr. Oldsmobile marches into the finals, thoroughly outclassed on paper by Al Hoffman's 5:20. But remember this, both these cars have been over 300.
You have made another withdrawal from the drag racing luck bank. Are you overdrawn?
Well, you know, this happened to me last year at Phoenix, and I think I used up my luck for about 3/4 of the year, so I hope not. You know, we got one more run, had a burst panel go second round, then we lost a blower about this round. I mean, I can't even get the tune-up right now.
And now you got Al Hoffman.
Yeah, I think he's on a roll right now, but this Rug Dr. Oldsmobile, I think we'll step her up for the final.
Hoffman might be working with the practice tree just a bit. With Eppler's luck, it could be 4 in a row. Back at the pits, the big number 1 tells it all. That is Warren Johnson, the reigning Winston champion. He is getting ready to race for the title in Pro Stock Eliminator and remembering when his opponent, Scott Jeffreyon, worked for him. Better known as Houston Raceway Park in the Slick 50 Nationals, Oldsmobile in Dodge in the finals of Pro Stock Eliminator. The reigning Winston champ, Warren Johnson, doing an aggressive burnout with his GM Performance Parts Cutlass. In the opposite lane, Scott Jeffreyon, who used to drive one of the Johnson team cars a couple of years ago, is at the wheel of the Mopar Parts Dodge Daytona. Jeffreyon, winner 2 weeks ago in Phoenix, Arizona, when he beat his teammate Darrell Alderman, has been psyching himself up for this confrontation. Earlier, Steve had a chance to take a look at the future.
Dave, you and everyone at home will be the first to see the new Dodge Avenger Pro Stock that will replace the Dodge Daytonas by about mid-season. Scott Jeffreyon, they're beautiful.
Oh, they sure are. You know, Chrysler's put together one fine looking car here. It's going to make a heck of a race car. Me and Darrell are just salivating, waiting to get inside one of these race cars.
A long deck on it.
Oh, it's got a long deck on it, and the most important thing is it's 105 inches versus 99 inches, and it's a little bit wider, but yet it's just as slippery in the wind tunnel. Actually, it's a little slipperier in a wind tunnel, so come mid-season, you're going to see 2 more excited guys over here.
Win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
That's the way it goes.
And, of course, the 99-inch wheelbase he's referring to is the length of the wheelbase on the Daytona he is currently driving. Both cars in the pre-stage beams. They are just sitting there. And they continue to sit there. Buster Couch, the starter for NHRA, looking on. You see the cars just basically are idling. No high RPM. Buster looking and making no move yet. Shaking his head a little bit. And now Buster Couch starts to move forward. What's he going to tell him? They'll put him in the beams, I would guess. Yes, that's the indication to stage the race car. The lights at the top of the tree tell the story. Nobody is moving. Scott Jeffreyon wants some respect. Now Buster is walking out. They can't use the excuse, and he's backing them up. He says, that's it. You're going to go back and go to the penalty box for a little while. Both the cars moving back. The crowd is going crazy with this action as Buster Couch has pulled Warren Johnson and Scott Jeffreyon back off the starting line, told him to shut the engines off, and is going to have a word with both drivers. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. We have seen it before, and the reasons are primarily psychological. One driver wants to stage last. Well, maybe the other driver wants to stage last as well, and that's what happens when you get into this situation. Now they say, let's start them back up, and we'll try it one more time. Scott knows Warren Johnson, and he knows that the reigning Winston champ likes to stage last. But keep one thing in mind. If one driver stages, that puts the pressure on the other driver. That driver has to stage within a period of time, or the starter will throw the switch. And if the second car isn't in the beams, the red light comes on and he is disqualified. Who knows what's going to happen here? Let's just watch. Who's going to go in first? The motors are at least up off of idle at the moment. It's Warren Johnson going in first. Scott Jeffrey-On may have staged last, but he got to the finish line last as well as Warren Johnson prevailed with low elapsed time of eliminations, a 7:07 at 196 miles an hour plus. Jeffrey-On had the quicker reaction time off the starting line. Maybe the starting line wars paid off for the Dodge driver. He got the jump, but Johnson had the power. As they worked their way down the racetrack, the Oldsmobile pulled up alongside, and then at about 1,000 feet, pulled past Scott Jeffrey-On, and at the finish line, the margin of victory was only 13 thousandths of a second. Oh, so close as Warren Johnson wins the Slick 50 Nationals in certainly one of the most dramatic races we have ever seen. Steve?
I'm sure it was not either of your intentions, but you had this crowd absolutely berserk. We could hear him clear down here.
The kid's just a jerk out there just trying to play his game. You better learn how to drive a race car before he starts playing games like that.
Well, it looked like both of you were playing the game. Anybody can stage at any time.
I don't have to stage last or first. I'll stage when I'm ready.
Warren Johnson wins it. And he's hot.
Well, Scott Jeffrey-On may have lost the race, but it appears he got to Warren just a little bit. As they continue to have words down at the far end of the racetrack. Warren's got the lead, Scott second, Darrell Alderman third in the Winston point chase. Kurt Johnson rounds out the top four, and Jim Yates is the only one even close to breaking into the top four, and it's going to be tough. We're ready for the finals of Money Car when we come back. In the Slick 50 Nationals presented by Western Auto. Their car, the one they sponsor, underway with his long smoky burnout. This is Al Hoffman. His opponent, the Ruck Doctor Oldsmobile. And Jim Eppler has got one thought in mind, and that is trying to keep the string alive. What streak are we talking about? His three opponents in the previous rounds of competition have all red-lighted. A very unusual occurrence indeed in money car racing, but it is paid off for Eppler as here he is in the finals against Al Hoffman. On paper, there is no race. Hoffman has got the advantage everywhere you look, a 5:20 to a 6:18 in the last round for Eppler. Jim has not made one serious run down the racetrack today, not for the lack of trying, but as Mike Clover, his crew chief, explained after the semifinals, he's lost. He doesn't really know where the combination is. Tommy Anderson, though, has been most consistent in his tune-up for Al Hoffman. Inside the race car, you're riding along with Al, and that is the view as they raise the body to make a final check of the engine. As Clover goes through the gyrations to get Eppler staged where he wants him. Both these cars have been over 300 miles an hour. Jim Eppler did it first. Al Hoffman 2 weeks ago at Phoenix ran 3:01.10. Two members of the Slick 50 300-mile-an-hour club that has been filled with the performances here in Houston. And there you see it in the opposite lane, a red light for Jim Eppler. Look at Hoffman go. 5:17 at 2:87. And the celebration begins. But for Jim Eppler, the old adage, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And he fell in the finals with a red light. Leaving the starting line too soon. Knew he had to try something too soon. He was about a week and a half ahead of the Christmas tree. Thirdly, vindication for Hoffman. He picked up the major sponsorship in the off-season, and it has definitely made a difference in his program. He kept telling people last year, just give me a little bit of money, and I can really run good if I have a chance to test and get the good parts.
Al, this was just a beautiful team effort between you and Tom Anderson. You had the driving when you needed it. He gave you a balance of power. You didn't beat yourself.
Oh, we got a great combination here. We're really pleased to be out here. Jim Eppler, I don't know what happened to him, but well, he's a good racer. He's here anyhow, but we're pretty excited. The track was a little loose out there in the middle, and we've been trying to just fight with it. We got big horsepower in this car, and we're really looking forward to going on to a track down in Gainesville next race. I mean, we've been in 2 finals now, and for Western Auto and Slick 50 and everybody involved, we're just so excited. Tom Anderson, my crew chief, I gotta say, I mean, he's the best in the business. My whole crew, I'm just lost. My wife, Helen, has done so much for the whole team, and we're just so excited about this deal.
Al Hoffman, pumped.
The win extends his lead in the Winston points chase. Casey Spurlock is second, followed by John Force, Bruce Pendragon, and Chuck Etchells moves up into the number 5 spot. One race remains as the celebration continues down in the shutdown area. Al Hoffman and crew celebrating the funny car victory. Top Fuel coming up next. Houston has Al Hoffman shows you they're number 1, and that's true. They are the leader in the Winston points chase in funny car, and this is a guy that has been there before. Don Prudhomme, 4-time consecutive Winston champion at the wheel of his funny car. Now in the finals in Top Fuel Eliminator against Scott Kalitta. The last time that Don Prudhomme won a race was way back in 1992 at the Autolite National. For Scott Kalitta, what a weekend it has been. He has set the national record and picked up the 200 bonus points to go with establishing a new elapsed time record. He got that mark at 4:72. He then beat his dad, Connie, in the quickest ever side-by-side race in the history of drag racing, a 4:74 for Scott to a 4:78 for Connie. For Prudhomme, his times have not been so stratospheric. They have been in the mid-480s, very consistent. But don't forget, Prudhomme qualified with a 4:79. So his crew chief, Wes Cerny, has definitely got the skills, but that man does as well. Dick LaHaye, the former Winston champion. He was the Top Fuel kingpin back in 1987, is now switched over to Turner Wrenches, and has definitely proved his value for the American International Airways team. The conditions continue to improve. It is twilight time here at Houston. The racetrack's got lots of teeth in it, and the conditions as far as the atmosphere getting better every moment. As the sun has gone down, the temperature has cooled off just a bit, allowing yet even more power out of these engines that are estimated to make well over 5,000 horsepower. The work of the crew is completed. It is all up to the driver at this point. Let's watch and listen. What an upset. Don Prudhomme has won. Unbelievable. Wes Cerny and all the crew celebrate as Don Prudhomme beats the national record holder, Scott Kalitta. What an accomplishment for the Snake. Bob Fry?
I would say that that was one of the more emotional wins we've ever seen in Top Fuel.
Well, you can say that again. We loved it. Unbelievable. We've had a wonderful day, and Don has just done a tremendous job driving. If he's going to retire this year, boy, the sport's losing one of the greatest ones.
Don Prudhomme got the advantage over Scott Kalitta at the starting line. Wasn't much, 100th of a second, but more importantly, he was able to outperform the national record holder. Something going away in the car of Scott Kalitta. As we watch in this replay, you see he begins to fall behind as Prudhomme streaks to the finish line, a trail of fire out of the headers and a smile a mile wide.
Don Prudhomme wins his 47th national event, looking like Nigel Mansell down here.
Yeah. You know, I got on these carbon fiber brakes, you know, a little too hard, about to turn the thing over. I was so excited. Yeah, man, I'm tickled to death. What can I say? It's been a long time, and, you know, the Lord was with us today. You know, we didn't run the best, but, my God, I guess we just hung in there, and West Cerny, all the guys. It's
best race of the day was with Corey Mack, for sure, when you were the snake.
Yeah, well, you know, I just didn't want that kid to whip me off the starting line. That's all I can tell you. And the rest is up to the guys. You know, they do the job of the car. And Skull Bandit, Pure Later wins, Pontiac, GM Truck, all the people that's hung in there with us. Really appreciate it. Thanks again, man. This is a ball, I tell you. I may not quit, you know.
I've said that all along.
I don't think Lynn Prudhomme, Don's wife, wants to hear a word of that. The win puts Don in 6th. Joe Amato, the leader, followed by Corey Mack, Scott Kalitta, Shelley Anderson, and Rance McDaniel. The 1994 NHRA Slick 50 Nationals, presented by Western Auto, has been brought to you by Odor Eaters and Soles. Knocks the odor out of your shoes and out of your life. And by Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. Don't miss the two-wheel terrors, the Pro Stock motorcycles of NHRA, all season long on ESPN2, the Suzuki Pro Bike Challenge. For Bob Fry and Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Houston. Coverage of the NHRA Slick 50 Nationals presented by Western Auto has been a production of Diamond V Sports in association with ESPN.